All right, all right. Welcome back to Eyes Open Media. Prophet John here. Hope you guys are doing well. Okay, so let's check out the markets and see what's going on. Today's Thursday is March 19, 2020. Okay, so interesting. The markets were going down. We were down 500 points, and all of a sudden, the Fed step in, right? Anytime you see a big line like this that goes straight up, that's the Fed. Without the Fed printing, we would literally be at 6,000 Dow right now. Easily, right? I mean everybody has common sense. If the feds are not printing billions of dollars into this market, the markets would be down to $6,000 right now. And then people probably would be buying there and getting ready for a nice slow recovery back up after, everything settles down. But because the feds continue to print and print and print and print and print to unlimited amount of money, they're fighting the whole thing all the way down, right? And so we're at 19,000 instead of being down, 10,000 right now or 8,000, we're down 19,000, right? So the feds are just using fake money to try to keep the markets from collapsing all the way down. And it's not the markets; it's the stock market, right? Um, does the stock market really, really dictate? Does the stock market represent the actual economy anymore? It doesn't. It used to because it used to be real. But the stock market doesn't represent the economies anymore. You know what I mean? Because it's all fake now. If the stock markets are fake, it don't represent the economy. Many people are not in the stock market. Only like 30% of Americans play the stock market, maybe even less than that, right? So it doesn't really dictate the economy of America any longer. It used to back in the days, in the 70s and 80s and 90s, really, right? I think we peaked out in like the early, like before, before 9/11, basically, in my opinion. And then everything became fake. Lots of fake money, lots of manipulation and fake money started coming into the markets, and they called it quantitative easing, QE. So that's what's going on. Every time you see a straight line up, that's the Feds pumping billions of dollars of money they don't have. I mean, imagine if we could do that. You know what I mean? It's unbelievable that they can do that, but we can't do that. You know. And if we try to do something like that, we go to jail. We go to prison for if we try to print fake money out of thin air. We would go to prison, but they don't. And it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous, right? It's ridiculous that they can just create $50 trillion out of thin air. But if we try to do that, if we try to create $1 billion out of thin air, a credit line for ourselves out of thin air, we would be in prison for 100 years. But nothing happens to them. So it's very weird, and the way society has accepted this is unbelievable to me. I'm not accepting this. I'm not accepting that the feds can just show up one day and print $600 billion into the markets and say that everything is okay. It's unbelievable what we're doing. And it's unbelievable that this is under Donald Trump, who's campaigning saying that the markets are manipulated and fake when he was campaigning, and now he's the probably the he's I mean we're printing more money than we did under Obama. The markets are more fake under Donald Trump than they were under Obama. I mean, I mean, did anybody think that was going to be possible? And so now the markets are green. So I think we're going to get some massive swings up and down. And the reason why is because as soon as the Fed stop printing, the markets start to drop again. The markets literally collapse because it's all the Feds. Only the Feds here. And that's the problem. So the Feds are the only ones buying. And once they stop buying, the markets absolutely collapse again. So it's ridiculous. Anyway, so that's what's going on. And they do have a stimulus package that could pass Congress next week. And so they're trying to figure out what number they should pay people. And so we're back over 20,000 now. So, so they're trying to figure out what number they should pay people. They don't, I guess Donald Trump was saying maybe it might be $1,000 per adult or something like that, and then 500 per kid. Or it could be 2,000 per adult and 1,000 per kid. They don't know yet, but that's that's all and well, but that's socialism, right? That's socialism, you know. because that's the money we don't have. It's the one thing if we had that money in our reserves, right, to give out. We don't have that money. We are in massive debt. So I mean, America's probably in debt worth like, I mean, I don't even know. I don't even know the number how much we're in debt. We're in debt quadrillions. We're not. It's not 20 trillion or 30 trillion like they tell us. It's literally like 600 quadrillion or something like that we can't even make up and we can't even imagine. And so not have any money and then just say that we're going to give people money, that's socialism, right? That's socialism. And so that means inflation might start kicking in, higher taxes might start kicking in, right? So we got to be careful about that. Obama gave people money and everybody just blew it right away, and then everybody was back to square one. Literally within 3 days, the money was blown and everybody was back to square one looking for another handout. Because when you give people free money, they don't care about it. They don't take it seriously. They don't protect it. They don't invest it. They literally spend it and then have their hand out again for something else. And then you give them something else, and then they'll spend it and do this. They'll never learn, right? Free money is not how we're supposed to do this. But Donald Trump wants to give people free money, so that's what they want to do. Okay, but that's part of socialism, though, Donald Trump. So if you want to do that, it's part of socialism. Bailing out all of these companies, that's socialism. Everything Donald Trump is doing now is socialism. Bailing out the printing as much as he can, as the feds can, bailing out all the banks, bailing out all the companies, bailing out the crews, bailing out everybody. It's telling these companies we don't have to really be responsible, because every time we're in trouble, the government's going to bail us out. So that means we didn't learn from 2008 to save money. These companies didn't learn. The banks didn't learn to stop investing in terrible investments, just throwing money into stupid investments like casinos and real estate and all this other stupid stuff, right? That they were doing, right? And bad investments for the bankers, and they're doing it now, right? So that's why the banks are in big trouble. We have to get these repo loans and stuff, repo stuff, because they're still doing the same thing they did in 2008, and they never learned a lesson. Why didn't they learn a lesson? Because we bailed them out. It's the same thing with all these insurance companies and all these groups. Everybody knows the government's going to bail them out, so they don't change. They don't learn from their mistakes, because why? When I can be bailed out. The cruise liners were doing really well under Donald Trump. Why didn't they save money? Why didn't they have 6 months of emergency money? Why within 1 or 2 weeks they're talking about they might collapse? How's that possible when you were doing so well under Donald Trump? It's because they spent their money like it was no tomorrow, and they didn't save their money, because they know that Donald Trump, if they get something kind of fishy happens or something goes wrong, that they will be bailed out. And that is, you know what I mean? Now, in the stimulus package, the cruise ships weren't in there, so I'm not sure they have to, and they're going to include them, or they're going to do something else. I don't know, but they weren't in there. The companies and entities were not in the stimulus package, so that was pretty weird. So I'm not sure they actually included them now, or because it's now going to be could pass in Congress next week, so they might have added the cruise companies in there now. Who knows? Okay, but when you give out free money, people will never learn. People don't learn. People only learn in hard situations. People only learn when they have nothing, and they have to rely on God, and they have to repent for their carelessness, and strategize and set goals. That's how people learn, when they're broken down. They don't learn when you give them a handout. They will never learn. Okay, same thing with you guys. You guys should know that with families and friends. If you give them handouts and money, they won't go to school. They won't do anything, because they know if I mess up and I beg, my cousin or my uncle or my auntie or my grandma or whoever you are to them, will give me a handout. No one learns with handouts. That's the problem with America right now. We're literally in socialism. We're literally practicing socialism right now, and it's not working, as you can see. Right? Socialism doesn't work. And the funny part about socialism is that no one wants to live in a socialist country, but everybody wants socialism. No one wants to go to Venezuela. No one wants to go to Cuba and all these other places that are being absolutely destroyed by socialism, but they want socialism for America. It doesn't even make sense. And they, and people will always say, "Well, we will do it a different way." No, no, there's no different way. Socialism is socialism. Communism is communism. You don't have any rights. You don't have any freedom. You can't do anything. It's all you're basically in the hands of the government, tell you what to do and when to do it. And everybody's the same. People that actually work, you're going to be taxed. 75% of your money will be taxed, maybe even higher. If you have gold and silver, Peter Schiff was just talking about gold and silver. He said under socialism, Bernie Sanders or some other socialist, type of economy, if you have your gold and silver, the government could literally, every time sell your gold and silver, the government could literally tax that 100%, and you don't profit off it. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, under socialism, like, they could tax your profits off of gold and silver by 95%. They can do whatever they want under socialism and communism, and that's what people still want. I don't. It's called what do you call them? Retrobated minds, right? Where you're no longer on the frequency of God. You're on the frequency of the Antichrist. So yeah, it's just terrible. So you guys are watching the markets here. We're up 15 points there, and global Dow's down 121, like it should be. Economies around the world are shut down, and the Dow and America's markets are up. Just think about that. Borders are shut down in the Middle East. Borders are shut down all throughout Europe. Economies are shut down throughout Europe, and America's stock markets are up. The only entity buying the market is the Federal Reserve. That's it. Donald Trump could kill the Fed by saying you can no longer buy anything and you can no longer supply debt. That's all Donald Trump has to do to kill the Fed, but he hasn't done it, and he might not never do it. Who knows? Who knows if Donald Trump's going to do that ever? I don't know. I don't know how. I don't know how we're going to go back to a gold standard if we don't kill the Fed. All right. So, anyways, that's what's going on. We got bad news after bad news. The jobless claim report was terrible. We went from 70,000 last month to 261,000. That was terrible, but we're up today. JP Morgan comes out and cuts several company stocks in half, but we're up today. Boeing and GE stocks are crippled, but we're up today. It doesn't make sense. Nothing makes sense anymore. Oil's at $22, even though it's up 10% today. It's at $22. Just 2 weeks ago, it was at $40. But we're up today. The Middle East is cratering because the oil's at $22. But we're up today. Does anybody see that Donald Trump declared war on a hidden enemy yesterday, but the markets are up today. Infections are rising rapidly in America, but we're up there in the markets. The market floor, the New York Stock Exchange market floor is going to be closing on Monday, and they're going to be doing everything electronically, but we're up today. JP Morgan's scheduled to close thousands of their banks. Okay, JP Morgan Chase to close thousands of their banks temporarily because of the virus. And also, I have insider information that TD Canada trust banks are going to be closing as well. TD banks out there in Canada as well. And many other banks are going to be announcing closures this weekend. I told you guys this is going to be a weekend of bank closures. But the markets are up today. Folks, you can't make this up. There's only one entity buying the markets, and that's the Federal Reserve. That's it. And they have now said they have unlimited amount of debt to buy the markets. And they're going to literally, if they need to spend if they need to spend $500 billion today to make sure the markets are up, that's what they're going to do. I mean, that can't be good for U.S. dollar long term, right? You know what I mean? Like just printing money out of thin air or on a digital screen, that's not going to be good for the U.S. dollar long term. At some point, the U.S. dollar is going to crash because of all of this stimulus debt money. Um, and I guess we'll see what happens. Well, and when I mean crash, I mean get down to its normal value, which is around 75 on the index. Right now, we're at 101.76. We can definitely run to 120, 125, 130, and basically choke out the Middle East and the emerging markets and force them to revalue currencies and stuff like that. So that's awesome if that happens. But U.S. dollar at some point will come down to around that 75 range, 70, 75 range at some point in the future. It's going to happen this decade, most likely. And we'll see where we go from there. All right. So that's what's going on. This is, you never think that under Donald Trump, we would be in this type of situation where literally everything is closed. Everything is bad right now. Countries' economies are shut down, but yet our markets are up. It makes absolutely no sense at all. But this is what we're doing. And it says Square stock price cut, target cut to 60 from 90. Everything coming out is negative, but our markets are up. Unbelievable. And that's because of one entity, the Federal Reserve. That's it. They keep printing and printing and printing, and they won't stop. They won't stop until God shuts them down. And remember what Louise Vogel Sharp said. God told the Federal Reserve and Donald Trump, do I really need to bring a natural disaster to stop you people from printing? Well, they won't stop, Father. So I guess you do. Unbelievable. Peace out. God bless. The next video will be the update on the virus. Peace out. Eyes open. Bye.